Today I'm standing in front of our P2V-7, the mighty Neptune, king of the sea. So the Neptune was a World War II project that came just slightly too late. It didn't quite make World War II, but it was built with all the lessons of World War II. So if you needed a patrol bomber, something that could fly out over the ocean and look for the enemy, you needed extremely long range, and you needed the crew to be somewhat comfortable for an extended period of time out over the ocean. Those two things make for a difficult problem if you're an aircraft designer. If you're going to have people flying for 14, 15 hours, they need to be somewhat comfortable. The P2V-7, I can say from experience, well, I don't have that experience. I flew in the plane after this. I flew in the P3. I was in a S3 squadron, P3 squadron, and a bunch of helicopter stuff. So I do have some experience with patrol bombers, but my experience is with the one that comes after this. So I do know a little bit about the Neptune. In fact, when I was stationed in Japan, they still had them. One of my many failures in my Navy career was going over to the Japanese Navy and saying, could I please get a ride or just see inside one of your Neptunes? And they looked at me like I was there to steal the crown jewels. So that didn't work. I never got inside one of the Japanese P2 Neptunes, but I have been inside ours. This thing came to us in 2017. It had been a fire bomber for years. In fact, it worked a fire on the way to our museum when it was being donated to us. So I think that part of its history is really cool. This is a P2V-7. The V7 part means it has these two outboard jet engines. When this thing was a patrol bomber and it needed to fly for 14 hours at a time, it needed a lot of gas, and gas weighs a lot. So this thing actually used those jet engines out on the wings to get it off the ground. They would secure them pretty quickly afterwards because you don't want to be burning jet fuel on your whole flight. You need it to get off the ground, otherwise they wouldn't fly with those. So the P2 stayed in service up until the early 70s. When I joined the Navy in '79, the last one was already gone. I did run into one P2 in my career. At the Navy base at Millington, Tennessee, it's adjacent to an old, mostly unused naval air station called NAS Memphis. NAS Memphis had a runway. It's just a standard runway for a Navy base. It was pretty much fallow by the time I got there in '79. I walked that base just checking out the old derelicts that had been left. One of the derelicts was a P2 Neptune. But it was not a normal P2 Neptune. Underneath the cockpit, there was an emblem that said truculent turtle. And the hair on my arms just jumped when I saw it. The truculent turtle is a very famous aircraft. That airplane, flown by a friend of mine, Captain Rankin, flew all the way from, it was either from Australia to Washington or Washington to Australia. I wish I could remember that detail. I'm sure somebody in the comments can fix that for me. So this is our P2V-7. Those stayed pretty active. There's still some flying as fire bombers, but this one came to us in 2017 after the Missoula firefighting people had found that it was going to be considered surplus. So from then till now, we've had it. We were very pleased on the day that they brought this. It was wonderful to see this thing fly in. We had a big reception for it. It's one of those really cool memories you get when you work at an air museum. When you see a small sticker like this stuck in an innocuous place on an airplane, this is actually a tradition in the military. This is called a zap. And when a person who flies in the military goes to a base where they don't normally go, often they'll take a couple of stickers from their squadron, have them in their pocket. When you walk by somebody else's airplane, you go, wow, nice airplane you got.